Um, Okay, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to the webinar for the Atlas Core English Teaching Fellowship in Columbia. We're really excited to have you all here to learn more about the program. So first things first, introductions. My name is Nick Cortina and I'm a program manager here at Atlas Core. Among other things, I focus on promoting our English Teaching Fellowship, recruiting candidates, and guiding applicants through the application and pre-arrival process. I'm thrilled to have my intern, Mariana, here with me. She was actually raised in Cali, Colombia. So Mariana, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Nick. So hi, everyone. Like Nick said, I was raised in Colombia, and I'm really excited to be here with all of you today, just to answer any questions you might have and to talk about my experience firsthand.
Awesome. So I am just going to share my screen. We have a little presentation. So let's see here. Share screen. Okay, and then present. Okay, so I first just wanted to give a brief overview of what we'll be going over today. So first off, we know that there's a wide range of participants on the call. Those who haven't submitted their application yet, those who have and are waiting to hear back, those who've been accepted, and so on. So some of what we go over may be redundant for people already through the process. So if you are one of those people, just sit tight. In terms of our agenda, I first just wanted to give an introduction of Atlas Core in general and our teaching fellowship and how it fits into our wider mission. I'll go over quickly how to apply. Mariana will share her story as a native Colombian and her perspective on the program. We'll go over some frequently asked questions and major points that are often asked, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end of the webinar. So we'll take all the questions at the end, but during the course of the webinar, you can actually write your questions, I think either as a comment on our YouTube video, or there should be a chat box on the right-hand side of the YouTube video where you'll be able to write comments. So first, like I said, I wanted to talk a little bit about Atlas Core. So Atlas Core is a global network of nonprofit leaders and organizations that promotes innovation, cooperation, and solutions to address the world's 21st century challenges. So our main kind of flagship program, if you will, is our US-based nonprofit model where we engage leaders from across the world in 6 to 18-month professional fellowships at organizations in the United States to learn best practices, build organizational capacity, and return home to create a network of global change makers. So over our now almost 11-year history, we partnered with leading social change organizations like Ashoka and Peace Corps, the Malala Fund, Nike Foundation, and others in the US. And our network of fellows includes more than 500 nonprofit leaders from now soon to be 87 countries. We have our next group of fellows to the United States coming this weekend, actually, so it's a really exciting time. And these are just some of the many host organizations that we partnered with in our US fellowship. And for around 2 years, we actually had a partnership with the State Department and White House under President Obama to engage 100 civil society leaders in the Emerging Global Leaders Initiative. We also just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and in the lead up to that celebration, we received many honors. So our CEO and founder, Scott Beal, was actually named the Power and Influence Top 50 2016 list by the Nonprofit Times, and he was also named as a finalist for the American Express NGen Leadership Award. Really, the bottom line is that Atlas Core is really growing and expanding every day. One of our biggest visions is expanding our fellowship and network to more and more people and countries, and our English Teaching Fellowship in Colombia is one of the main ways we are doing that. So we'd love to have you join our incredible network and family, not only our 500 plus US fellows that we've engaged, but also our family of over 100 English Teaching Fellows that we've supported over the past 3 years. So now a little bit basically about our founding principles. So Atlas Core was basically founded on the idea that talent is universally distributed, but opportunity is not. That international barriers often prevent global service from kind of going the less conventional way of south to north. And I think this picture is covering it up, but we really think the most effective way to address critical social issues is by developing leaders. So basically, we found that there are extremely talented people from all over the world that would benefit from serving in other countries and, you know, contributing their perspective and learning best practices in other countries. And so we basically provide that platform for them to unleash their talent, and we're also, you know, attempting to do that with our English Teaching Fellowship. So more about the English Teaching Fellowship is that obviously it's an English teaching opportunity in Columbia for emerging professionals. It's actually a collaboration between Atlas Core and two partners in Columbia, Heart for Change and Volunteers Columbia, and they have partnered with the Ministry of Education to facilitate the development of a prosperous Columbia where children and youth have the opportunity to receive a high quality bilingual education. And through these programs, Heart for Change, Volunteers Columbia, Atlas Core, and other recruitment allies have been able to mobilize more than 1,000 volunteers from 45 different countries, benefiting more than 176,000 public school students through the Ministry of Education and 1,300 teachers. So that's just a little bit more about the background. So now I want to have Mariana introduce herself and give a bit about her background.
All right, thanks, Nick. So I'm so happy to have the chance to share with all of you my experience and hopefully encourage you guys to move forward with the decision to go to Columbia. First, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the importance of this fellowship to Columbian students. In recent years, bilingualism has become increasingly important in the Colombian job market. So speaking English is no longer just a plus, it has become essential to gain access to better job opportunities. And according to recent studies, English speaking skills have become so relevant, they're valued even above a master's degree or specializations degrees. So someone proficient in English can make up to 15 to 20% more money than someone who doesn't speak the language. And in a lot of companies, employment opportunities for entry-level jobs, management positions require English proficiency. So, and also they're offered just more opportunities for fellowship and training programs abroad. However, despite the importance of becoming bilingual, only 1 out of 10 Colombians speak English, and this disparity in education reflects economic disparity throughout the country. So by participating in Atlas Core, you wouldn't just be joining an accredited established program that gives you valuable skill sets, but you'd also be playing a crucial role in kind of bridging the educational gap in Colombia and making it a more even playing field in terms of the labor job market. And so while there are so many teaching abroad opportunities, few really provide the benefits and connections that Atlas Core does or have the type of reputation that Atlas Core has created for itself. And so the English Teaching Fellowship is really a very competitive, structured, and paid opportunity to make a real difference in Colombia, which is why I think you should all really consider it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that background. So now we wanted to delve a little bit more into some of the major points of frequently asked questions. So Mariana is going to speak a little bit about what to expect from the role and kind of what the day-to-day looks like.
Okay, so to speak more about what each day is going to look like, generally in both the ministry and the Senate, you will have around 20 to 25 teaching hours in the classroom, and then an additional 10 to 15 hours expected of lesson planning, either with a co-teacher or independently. And they also, both the Senate and the ministry have school schedules that operate in afternoon classes or morning classes. So in the beginning, especially if you've never taught before, you'll spend a good amount of time lesson planning either at home, in a library, or a coffee shop. So it's a great opportunity to bond with other teachers and fellows. A lot of fellows do their planning together and just kind of meet in coffee shops and get closer. And you can also do a lot of stuff with your free time in Colombia. A lot of people have gym memberships, and going to a gym is a great way to meet new people. And if you're in a bigger city, there'll be more opportunities for things like language or dance lessons. But even in small towns, you could figure this out. And your involvement in the community is up to you. You can look into volunteering on a farm, at a local school, sports team, or even women empowerment efforts. There will likely be a weekly requirement of some sort of community project, but that can range from many, many things. It can be an English club, at a coffee shop, or teaching sports, or art therapy. I even heard of one fellow teaching English to their CrossFit partners. So it can go a lot of ways. And now I just wanted to speak a little bit to how Columbia will be different, or you might experience some culture shock coming there in the beginning. And I'm sure you're going to get this a lot in orientation. But just to kind of tell you a little bit of what I experienced when I moved to Columbia when I was like 10, is that it definitely is a culture shock in classrooms because students are a little different. So Colombian kids are extremely curious, but they're very, very talkative, which can be difficult if you've come from the United States where children are a little quieter. So don't be surprised if they have a lot of trouble raising their hand before they speak, or if when they raise their hand, they're like whispering, me, 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 me. They're really intense. And they also tend to all talk at the same time, or talk amongst each other while you're talking. So it can be challenging for classroom management, but you'll never have a boring class. They're always going to be energetic, and they're always going to want to participate, which is really cool. And you'll also probably experience culture shock outside the classroom. Punctuality is usually a big thing for a lot of people in the beginning. I always recommend being punctual in all work-related situations, but try not to get too frustrated if your coworkers are like 10 minutes late. And if it's a social situation, do not expect people to be punctual ever. Just give them like half an hour, plan your time according to that. So yeah, that's kind of the stuff I wanted to talk about.
Okay, awesome. So now I was going to talk a little bit more about the benefits of the program. So kind of going a little bit out of order from this list, but so fellows do receive a 1.5 million Colombian peso stipend, which is around $500 US, which actually might not sound like a lot, but is actually around 2.5 times the average Colombian wage. So it's basically intended to cover food, shared housing, and local transportation. It's not enough for going out like every day or living in an expensive apartment, but it's definitely manageable if you budget. It can be challenging, but worth it, and you do grow from living on a basic stipend. You also receive what's called a TP1 visa for free, and a Colombian identification card upon arrival. There's a 10-day to 2-week orientation training in pedagogy and teaching methods. You will get a certificate at the end of the program. You will get local Colombian medical insurance. You'll get the first month free of accommodation, a bonus upon completing the program, 24/7 support from regional coordinators. You'll get the experience of co-teaching with an experienced Colombian English teachers, and getting to collaborate with them and learn from them, because they've been immersed in it for a long time. And you also will get transportation from the orientation site and both out to your placement city. But what we're also really excited about are the benefits that Atlas Core can give to you. So, I've already mentioned generally there's really just the connection with our global network of more than 500 leaders from 87 countries. But we are also aiming to implement a lot more concrete professional development opportunities for English teaching fellows, such as access to our Global Leadership Lab, which is actually a experiential learning course and kind of symposium that we run every January, May, and September, themed around a different principle of nonprofit management. So we actually have one starting on May 22nd, around then, about marketing communications. We'll have some really cool presentations and case studies using examples from our host organizations. We'll have some VIP speakers. Last September, we actually had a past Nobel Peace Prize winner speak, and we're hoping to have these sessions available for either recording a lot of the sessions and making them available to our teaching fellows, or even having alumni come to DC. We're still figuring that out. But besides the Global Leadership Lab, we also have webinars that our fellows lead on topics of interest to them. So some examples, I know a couple months ago we had a fellow talk about how to get a job at the United Nations, and we've had a fellow with fundraising experience talk about that experience and effective fundraising strategies. So our teaching fellows are able to access all of those, and we are also working on having some of our teaching fellows even do their own webinars to contribute themselves. So, just to reiterate, we really do think that there are a lot of added benefits to Atlas Core that kind of makes it stand out from other teaching abroad experiences, because not many other teaching abroad experiences also connect you to this kind of wider nonprofit management kind of international group that's working on a variety of issues and can really be a great springboard for professional development even outside of English teaching. Okay, so now I think we're going to talk a little bit about orientation and what to expect.
Okay, so generally you should expect 1 week of TEFL preparation and 1 week of Columbia-specific cultural safety information and bank and visa processes. So the orientation will first prepare you for what to expect within Colombian culture in terms of food, safety measures, typical environment, and what to expect in the classroom. So a little bit of what I was talking about before, but you'll probably be going way more in depth during orientation. It'll also kind of be structured and scheduled by presentations and group activities. You'll have shared rooms because housing is provided, so shared rooms of 1 to 3 roommates during orientation. And there will be 100 fellows attending, so it's a great time to meet them all and engage with them during breaks and meals.
Awesome. And I just wanted to talk a little bit more about in-country support. So fellows do have access to a full staff of in-country support available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for emergencies and within normal business hours for non-emergencies. Really the closest support is what our partners call regional coordinator, and this is actually a staff member responsible for 1 to 2 regions of the country, who is the fellow's first point of contact in terms of support having to do with really anything, be it communication, culture, pedagogy, logistics of different things. You also have a mentor at each of your schools who will be your go-to for classroom issues and teaching advice and general scheduling. So just to talk a little bit more about the difference, your regional coordinator can help with things like housing, medical visits, payment issues, classroom difficulties, and any general concerns. Whereas your school mentor will help more with getting the context of the school. So like helping you tour the school, introducing you to key stakeholders in the school, providing support and knowledge of how the classes are run, and kind of any specific procedures for the school. So you will have a lot of support. I will say that on the ground, your main point of contact will be Hartford Change and Volunteers Columbia, but Atlas Core will still always be an email or a Skype call away if you ever want to talk about anything or have any ideas of how to even better integrate our two networks. So now I think Mariana is going to talk a little bit more about the cities and institutions.
Okay guys, so one of the coolest things about Columbia is it's very diverse and you have so many different regions and each one is so distinct from the other. So you have the Caribbean coastal region and the Coffee Mountain region, and you have more arid and desert-like environments. And then you also have big cities, small towns, modern cities, quaint pueblos, and each city is great in their own way. I can really only speak to the cities I've been to, but I can tell you each one has a very distinct personality. So Bogota is kind of known for having the most varied cultural and intellectual life because it's the capital. And then Cali has the best nightlife and the best salsa, and Barranquilla It has a really warm people. Medellin has a perfect climate, and Cartagena has the best dining, and Popayán is the most picturesque from where I've been. So during orientation, you're going to meet with your with your city region coordinators, and they're going to shed some more light on what to expect from your city. And you'll also meet with the other fellows that are going to your city. I do recommend that you do your research on your city once you're placed and you come prepared with some questions to ask your regional coordinator. As our email correspondence has also noted, the earlier you apply and submit your deposit, the more priority you'll have on your city placement choice. And you may have preferences, but also keep yourself open to new possibilities you might not have considered before, because you really don't know what a city's like until you're there. And a lot of this program is what you make of it. So when you're placed, we take multiple things into account. You might get one or two things that you prefer in your city, but not everything. And in terms of institutions, they vary in focus and style. So if you're with SENA, you may be on the an agricultural school in a more rural area, or in the city center. And with the ministry, your high schools will also vary in size and location depending on your city. But what all of the programs have in common is the incredibly warm reception you'll receive by both students and teachers. Technology availability is also very varied, and institutions may or may not have planned curriculums. So both of these are what creates the experience's most biggest and fulfilling challenge. And for your personal growth, you have to learn how to think on your feet and adapt to different situations, be flexible, creative, brainstorm easy classroom activities that you can incorporate in any topic. So it's really a space where you can get really creative.
Awesome. And just to clarify, Atlas Core actually doesn't have a say in the placement process. That is done by our partners from Columbia, but what Mariana said still applies. They'll take your preferences into account and try to get you a placement that matches those. Although you are higher up on the priority list if you submit your deposit earlier rather than later. And then finally, the last point we want to go over before opening up to a more freer Q&A was talking about the safety of Columbia. So we know that can often be a concern given Columbia's history. So I just first wanted to start with kind of a bigger picture overview. So the U.S. Department of State has actually said that, has verified and reported that Columbia has drastically improved in recent years. Tens of thousands of U.S. citizens safely visit the country every year for tourism and business, university studies, volunteer work. The list goes on. But with all developing countries, Columbia has its more dangerous regions, and fellows should always take the necessary precautions to keep themselves safe. This includes making smart choices like using caution when meeting new people, traveling alone, or using public transportation. It's really all about having common sense. So I know Mariana can speak a little more to that too.
Yeah, just to add on to what Nick has already mentioned, the safety situation is better now than it has been in decades. And with the recent signing of the peace treaty, there's a good chance it'll just continue improving. And I can tell you that in the 12 years I lived in Colombia, I was never robbed or assaulted. But I also take safety very seriously. I think that's important when you're in a place that is not as safe as you're used to. So first of all, if you're going to a new place, especially at night, do your research, plan your transportation, and figure out the route you're taking ahead of time. And when you go out at night, also stick to a group of friends. And when you're using Uber or cabs, make sure you call them on the phone or use an app. It's not really a good idea to pick up taxis on the street, especially at night. These are just some tips I would recommend using. And then finally, try to avoid walking alone at night in kind of sketchy areas. And when you're out on the street, don't wear super flashy jewelry or expensive watches, and try not to, this is a very big thing for tourist town, try not to flaunt your cell phone around if you have a smartphone. That's an easy way to draw attention to yourself. So I think if you follow these small tips, you should be fine, and the regional coordinators will provide you with more specific information regarding the specific area you're in.
Mm-hmm. And also during orientation, there will be a safety presentation to kind of go over those points again and just to familiarize you with different safety precautions to take. So that is really all we had planned. So now I'm gonna, stop sharing my screen. And I wanted to see if anyone had any questions. So let's look if there are any comments. Okay. I'm not seeing anything. So, great. Let's see. Okay, well, in that case, cool. If anyone watching this does end up having questions, you can always email us at infocolumbia@atlascore.org. We really hope this was a helpful presentation. Feel free to ask any questions, email us any questions, and we'll be happy to be in touch. So thanks again for watching and have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.